All right, here we are, and we're going to do a little update and testing on the Jazz Vacuum Tube Amplifier build. So this is where I'm at. I'm testing it out now, just some odds and ends to finish up, and I'll be ready to put some signal through it. I just wanted to do some little commentary on testing it. So here it is on the bench. I have it hooked up to a Variac, which you can see here. Now, if anybody is not familiar with what a Variac is basically a variable resistor for AC lines. So instead of plugging right into the 120, you plug into a Variac, and then you can vary the amount of AC signal or AC power you have going into whatever you're plugging it into. Now, this is a precautionary thing. It's just a safer way to test equipment. Also, we have to remember that when you build something, this is the first time that those parts have ever been powered. So it helps to bring the power up on them gradually instead of hitting the components with full power right off the bat. So it's safer for yourself, and it's safer for the equipment as well. So again, that's the Variac, and if you can see there on the multimeter, I have it at about 80 volts. That's where I'm doing my testing. I don't want to bring it up any higher because there's no load on this. Remember, because I don't have the tubes in, so there's no load. So none of the power is going to the signal portion of the amplifier. I'm just testing out the power section. Because there's no load, I'm going to get higher voltages than I normally would, say when it's going to be running full power with the tubes in it. So right now, we're going to see some voltages from around 380 to 390, maybe even close to 400 volts here when I power it up. So have it go on through the Variac, and what we're going to take a look at is the multimeter up here. When I power it up, what we're going to see is an increase in voltage, and then I'll also show you how the voltage dies down, which is pretty cool. Something I didn't really plan for, but if we take a look at the schematic again, I'll show you where something actually quite cool happens with the standby circuit and the LED. So if we recall, this is the power supply, this is the standby circuit, and this is the signal path. Now this power supply circuit, what I did with this is just basically powers the high voltage AC goes through this relay, through a 6-volt relay, to turn on the standby, turn on the high voltage. Now, when that happens, there's an LED up front that will also signify that the high voltage is on. But the LED actually does a little bit more than that, because when I turn the circuit off, there's about a 10-second delay for the relay to shut off, which is something I might change, I might not. But there's a 10-second delay because this capacitor has to discharge for this relay to close or to open again. So if it's once the capacitor charges, then that relay closes and then the voltage comes on. It takes about 10 seconds for this capacitor to discharge, and that relay will open up again. While that's happening, however, that LED is still in the B+ circuit. Once that B+ circuit is powered on, that LED really acts like a drain resistor. So what you're going to see here, when I put the voltage on and we watch the multimeter, is we're going to see a huge increase in voltage. But what we're also going to see is the voltage steadily decrease and decline at a fairly good rate. That actually helps us out because that will help keep it all safe, right? So instead of having drain resistors in the power supply section, which I did not have, that LED actually drains the whole power supply. So maybe after 30 seconds or so, the whole thing is completely, back to 5 volts maybe. So it's perfectly fine to work on. Put your hands in there and you're not going to get injured and nothing's going to short out. So let's take a look at that. All right, so again, we have this thing going through the Variac operating at 80 volts AC. I'm about to turn it on. Indicator light is on. And now we're going to watch the voltage come up through the standby switch in the high B plus. If you hear really closely, I don't know if we can hear it now, but you will be able to hear the relay click. So there it is, 390 volts, right? And it's going to keep climbing a little bit. Again, there's no load, so it's going to keep climbing, but we're at 392 volts now. That's DC. That's at the very beginning. That's after the bridge rectifier. So that's our B plus. Now also on the front end, the standby LED is on too, and I'll show you that a little bit later. But right now, what we're going to look at is the discharge. So once I turn this standby switch off, it'll take about 10 seconds for it to open up again and cut off power. And then the voltage will steadily decline. It just turned off. There we go. Now you might look at that and think, oh, well, that might be a drain resistor, but it's not. It's actually the LED. So that LED is actually quite nicely eating up all that voltage. Look, we're already at 150 volts, So it's already getting to the point where it's almost non-volatile after just a couple seconds, which is great. So yeah, that's where we're at here. All right, so now down to 60 volts. That's where we're at. From here, I'm just going to make a bottom for the amplifier. Go through the signal path again, make sure everything's okay, and then gonna put some tubes in here and see how it sounds. Now, before I end the video, I'll just get a little glimpse of the LEDs up front so we can see how those are operating. So again, and maybe it's been about a minute and it's down to 11 volts. Again, I mean, now it's at the point where it's safe to work on and you don't have to worry about there being high voltage in there, and that's just the LED taking care of all of that. So it came out to be a great thing to have. So I'm going to adjust this camera a little bit and then look at these LEDs. All right, so that's the glow of the LED. That's the on LED. That's the glow at 80 volts. It'll be brighter than that once we get it up to full voltage. Now the green one next to it is going to be the B plus standby. So I'm going to hit the standby. It'll take about 1 second for it to turn on. There's the relay. Now we're back up to 390 volts. You can see that it's glowing. Now if I turn it off, it'll take about 10 seconds. It's off. Now the voltage is steadily declining. So now we're at 300 We're at 250, 200. You should see it dimming a little bit. We're at 150. About to hit 100. See, the LED should be getting dimmer and dimmer. We're at 70, 60, 50, 40. Now you see that LED is almost completely out. 30. So quite a cool feature. Again, I'll turn it on. There it is. Turn it off. It'll take 10 seconds and it'll discharge. There it goes. And now, again, it's discharging. All right, well, that's the amplifier update. Next time I do one of these, we'll be playing some guitar out of it. All right, thanks for watching.